I just want to give you a little bit of background about the Dreamlines project, which is a free monthly art program that I'm offering to my subscribers here in 2023. And just a bit of a side note, throughout my own creative process, over and over again, I have found that I have yielded great results when I make a commitment to a regular creative practice and then also work with small compositions, explore ideas, and then make them into larger compositions. And this is a process that I found has worked for me, and I hope will work for others, because I know that we can get overwhelmed with I must do this, I must do that, and that if you set yourself too ambitious a target, then those New Year's resolutions just crumple up. And so the idea behind the project is that I will release on the first day of each month, January through to October, a linear motif. If you've seen the January instructions, it comes in 2 pages like this, and it provides a guideline as to how to create a motif. Now, just a little confession, when I had this idea, it was just before I went away from holidays. So I didn't have time to really test it, but I did another little trick, which I find helps me with my compositions. I did a mock-up in paper. So I did a paper collage. And this is my paper mock-up for January module, fine line dashes. So the character of these dashes is a fine strip, a light line against a dark background. I did have time before I went away to do a little mock-up of that particular module, but not all the other ones, in fabric. So that gives you an example of the scale and the size of what I call the mini compositions. So if you're just looking for something that is manageable, not a big investment of time or energy, but just to try out the technique, then you might like to go with the mini size. But in these notes, I also give you guidelines of how to expand it and scale it up to a larger composition like the one behind me. So the idea is that you'll make one of these 12 to 15 inch long strips for each month from January through to October, and then talk about how you can join those strips all together to make your own composition. And then we'll have a bit of a celebration throughout the year when everybody's completed their compositions. That's the idea. Undoubtedly, it's going to morph and develop along the way. So we'll see what happens there. So you may want to make one of those strips a month and put them all together. Or if you're excited by trying it out, you might like to make more. And that's what I've done here. I've made 13 different types of fine line dashes, and I've joined them all together. Now, one of the things I noticed when putting it all together is that when you're piecing at this scale with lots of little details like this, there's a lot of seams. So if you are new to piecing and new to sewing, you may find it easier to go with a larger scale version. And one of those long strips doesn't take a whole lot longer than one of these ones. So work out what is going to work for your situation, and this is kind of where we will be tracking. In terms of my inspiration, I have a whole series of quilts that I've developed over the years that have linear motifs and are in different ways, and I've just done a knot here and made it hard for myself. So this is Dreamlines number 3, and you can see that it's got a similar palette to the work that I've done behind me. That's something I like to do sometimes, is find a picture in a magazine, find a fabric, or find one of my own quilts and use that as a palette for a future project. So this, you can see, has got different linear motifs, and this has got also cross-stitch detail. And that's one other thing that reminds me that if you are making one of the mini compositions, then it does have lots of seams and it lends itself less to doing hand quilting. So if you're somebody that would like to try hand stitching in your composition and for example doing those kinds of cross stitch motifs, then maybe go for a larger version. This is another one that I did, and it was like 2 minutes to 2 when I decided, oh, I'll pull out these quilts and share them. So I wasn't quite prepared. But this one is inspired by the view from my studio. And you can see it's got lots of different motifs in it. And it also has cross stitching. So you can see around those squares there's some hand stitching. So I like to mix hand stitching and machine stitching in my designs. And for those of you that have just joined me, then you can see that's the view from my studio, and that was part of the inspiration for this work. So I'm really excited about the Dreamlines project, and if you haven't already done so, please sign up to get the first module. And there is an optional Facebook group where you're welcome to share your compositions. If you are somebody who likes to post to Instagram, there's a handful of hashtags that will help. January Dreamlines will give the fine line dashes. The hashtag Dreamlines project will bring up across the project, and similarly Dreamlines 2023 is another hashtag there. Thank you. Somebody else has just joined, and I really welcome your feedback. If there's something that you'd like to see more of, or more explanation, or if something's not clear, shoot me an email. And because I'm kind of making this up as I go along, and I guess my dream for 2023 is to help spark creativity in others and encourage some creative momentum by making small, manageable chunks of time, clear instructions to generate an outcome, but also flexibility to do as much or as little as you would like to do. I've had fun doing these samples. I'm not sure that I'm going to do that every month, but this gives you some idea. This will be the overall size of the mini composition that you may create by doing each month module, and behind me is just a sample of taking it further with the January Dreamlines of fine line dashes. And somebody else has just joined me, and so I'm just wrapping up. I thought I'd keep it to the 15-minute mark or so, but please do go back and check out what I said at the beginning of the live stream. And I really, really look forward to seeing what you do with this project, your creations and your imagination. So thank you, and I'm going to leave you with another look at the view. Farewell from Copacabana.